Welcome to Purpose by Design with Dr. Pamela Henkel, a platform for people to share their stories, a place where change and healing can begin. Dr. Pamela stands on the fact that we are here on purpose, with a purpose by design, and not by default. Purpose by Design starts now.
Well, thank you so much, Sam, for being our initial, I'm going to use a very silly word here, cover model. Cover model. No, thank you for being willing to appear on our initial magazine. We are so excited to have you, but also to honor you. You and I have a beautiful backstory of how we got to where we are today. And you will have a chance to chat a little bit about that at a later time when I'm asking you those kind of questions. But I just want to say, getting to know you has breathed for me a whole nother like fresh breath into Hollywood, because I've been able to know you and the intricacies and understand some things that otherwise just a person on my side of the road doesn't always see everything the way that it is. And you've been able to just really expound and show me things. And on top of that, you are a man of faith, you're a man of integrity. You know how to push through difficult times. And we're going to talk about that together here as well. But you are who you say you are, who Sam says he is who he is. And it's an honor to call you friend and to have you with us at this place in time in history. I feel like we're making history together. So
you made me tear up.
Yeah, me too. You are a precious soul, and so glad that life navigated us together. I believe that's a divine thing. I believe that's a God thing, and so much to look forward to. So thank you for all your support in everything, always, and as always here at Purpose by Design, Design with Purpose. My team and I, we are here to serve you. So whatever, anytime, anywhere, anything, we are here to support you, Sam. So thank you. I wanted to share that right away. All right. Go ahead. I just cut you off. Say what you were going to say.
No, I was just saying, I appreciate that. It means a lot.
Well, you're amazing. Thank you. All right. So let's go on with the show. See, I can actually say that now. On with the show. So I remember when I was first introduced to you, and I knew where I had seen you before, because I was so nervous. I have to be really honest. When we met that first time, I was like, my palms were sweaty.
Really?
Like, gosh, I'm going to be interviewing and working with this actor who was in one of my favorite movies, The Greatest Showman. And I love that movie. I love the soundtrack. I listen to it. I have songs on my morning playlist. If I'm in a place where I'm feeling a little down or anything, or I just need a bump in my, get that vibration, get that mood going in the right direction, that's what I pop in. And before I even knew you, my favorite character was the one that you played. And I was just drawn to you. And I believe now it was because, there was all of this that was happening. We were going to be connected. But I would just love it if you would share with us and our community, our readers, tell us a little bit about being in that movie and what that was all like.
Well, obviously being in that movie was very life-changing for myself. When I first heard about the film, it was completely by surprise. I had gotten a out of the blue email from my agent at the time, who was located in the UK. And I had, as I've shared before, I had signed up to them 2 years prior. And I completely honestly had forgotten all about the fact that I had a UK agency. And then, I got this email out of the blue one day saying that this film at the time was called The Greatest Show on Earth, which was sounded a little bit weird to me, but my agent asked me to, submit an audition, and I did that. Next thing I know, I had been shortlisted, and then I, was meeting the director to do my self-tape over Skype again. And he was very, very thrilled with my performance. And to be honest, I think also in large part that I actually have a lot of similarity to the look of General Tom Thumb and Charles Stratton, the actual person. And so I think that aided in me landing the role. However, after doing the audition with the director, he was happy, and then I was off to Vancouver to meet with him in person. And it just kind of took off from there. At that time, I did not know that Hugh Jackman was on board the project. I just knew it was a musical. And I'm not very musically talented or inclined myself, so I was kind of a little bit taken back. I was like, I don't think, for me personally, I always said I would never really partake in a musical because it's not necessarily my thing. But upon finding out that Hugh Jackman was going to be attached, that made me a lot more eager to be involved on the project. And obviously, I grew up, watching Hugh Jackman in film and television, mainly film, and X-Men has always been one of my favorite films and franchises. And when I first saw Hugh Jackman in X-Men, that is what inspired me to become an actor and pursue the arts of acting. So yeah.
That must have been amazing to connect with, kind of like a mentor, sort of somebody that you had looked up to in the movies growing up, and all of a sudden there you are working on the film with him. What was that like?
It was very full circle. It was a very full circle moment. Just to, from growing up as a kid, coming from a very small country, originally from New Zealand. It's a very big and wild dream for anyone to say that they want to make it out in Hollywood. And me being a little person, I've always had dreams of grandeur, I guess, and wanting to make an impact on the world. And for me, it was being able to succeed in Hollywood, which is, you're always told that Hollywood is one of the most competitive industries in the world, and for anyone to break into Hollywood and make it out here is not necessarily easy to do. So for me to be able to do that and make it out to Hollywood, and then be able to work alongside my acting mentor and hero was just very full circle. And I don't get starstruck much, but I got very starstruck when I met you for the first time. I tried to play it off very cool, did not come off cool at all. No, I was very, very taken back, and I tried to play and be like, "Hey, Hugh, how's it going?" And I was like, how am I doing? He's like, "You're not playing it cool at all." I'm like, "All right, well, there it is." So
There it is.
yeah.
But I bet he appreciated that transparency and honesty rather than trying to fake it till you make it kind of thing in that moment. Yeah, I'm sure he appreciated that. Well, you went on to be able to celebrate the victory of that movie by sailing on a ship. And I thought this would be a fun time for you to elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, so the premiere for the film was, on board the Queen Mary 2, which was a very historic event as well, because it was the first time that a premiere has ever been on such a grand ship, and has ever been on, the Queen Mary. No movie premiere had ever done that before, so we were the first. And just to be able to experience something like that was, I mean, it was, I mean, I still get chills thinking about it today, because to have the opportunity to do something like that, where very few people in my position, coming from a small country, like New Zealand, and be able to surround myself with, incredible talent, such as Hugh Jackman, Zendaya, Zac Efron, Rebecca Ferguson, Michelle Williams, to be in a film of that caliber and to be surrounded with talent of that caliber was really special to me. And also, I talk about it today, and I still feel like it today, that, sometimes I have imposter syndrome, to think, is this really my life? Do I really know some of these people? And, are some of these people really like my friend? And being able to, touch base with someone like Hugh, at any given moment, to be able to, send an email or send a text to him, and to be able to have someone like him in my corner, and celebrate a film like that on a ship like the Queen Mary was, yeah, so surreal. And yeah, hopefully going forward I get many more opportunities like that. But just to be able to have that opportunity, is a once in a lifetime opportunity, and so I'm always grateful to be able to look back on the memories that I have of that, in my phone, and of the premiere, and to have been able to share that with my family. Being able to bring my family out to celebrate with me on the Queen Mary, and just to share that with them, and to have them be so proud of me, being someone who always felt like, kind of being a little bit of a burden to my family, and, being able to be, give back to my family that, sort of opportunity and experience and success is helps me to feel like not being a burden sometimes. Though, it's as, a little person, and, a human being, I can't help but sometimes feeling like that still today. So, yeah.
I can appreciate that. I mean, I'm sure that your family would say that's absolutely not what you are at all.
Mm.
But being a human being, and when we go through difficult challenges in our life, which you're going to talk to us in a bit about some of those adversities that you've had to come through, I don't think any of us can help but have those feelings. And so it's really a blessing when we can be used as God's tool to bring goodness, blessing, and treasure to those that we love, especially when we have had such need of them to help us through difficult times. So I totally understand what you're saying. I have a question for you about being on the ship.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a red carpet walking?
There was, and it was, to be completely honest, I feel like my actual entrance onto the red carpet was shot, and I was actually very, very disappointed, because, obviously that's a once in a lifetime moment. And as I was, there was the grand, staircase that spiraled around down onto the red carpet. And as I was making my entrance, a photographer, which was very, in that moment frustrating for me, decided he would cross over my entrance. And as I was coming down, and I was very disappointed that the video that I have of me walking down onto the red carpet is overshadowed by that photographer crossing in front of me. So, as much as I want to, remain grateful, it's every time I watch that video back, I can't help but feel a little bit frustrated that he could have waited and not crossed, my path as I was making my once in a lifetime moment entrance onto my very first brand red carpet. So,
Yeah,
that was
absolutely.
very disappointing.
I'm so sorry that that happened, because you worked just as hard as everybody else did on the film and deserved the same glory and the same moment to treasure forever. I can imagine that was disappointing, but at the same time, I'm like, oh my gosh, to be on the ship, to be at the premiere and not be somebody's guest, but to actually be in the movie and
Yeah.
in this premiere with your mentor and hero and walking on the red carpet. What an experience that must have been for you.
Mm.
Wow. Like, I just can't even imagine. I get excited thinking about it. Now, how long were you guys on the ship?
So the premiere went for, I believe it went for maybe 3 or 4 hours. So, we went on the ship, we walked down the red carpet, we had a reception, we had a dinner, they played the film, and then, there was just a lot of sort of networking and congratulations, with producers and the director and, the financiers and everyone that had a hand in putting the film together, were major talent and everything. But as much as my initial entrance may have been a little bit short, I was still very fortunate to have some amazing moments. Once I made my entrance, I there is a video of me, being interviewed by the host or the interview team in front of the Greatest Showman, backdrop, with, the costumes and everything. And they were interviewing me about my experience and what it was like to be in a film such of that caliber, and what it was like to work with, all the amazing talent, and also going into kind of how I felt about portraying my role as Tom Thumb. And, to portray that role was very special to me, actually, because as mentioned, I, gone through a lot of challenges myself, and him being a little person, myself being a little person, I can resonate, very closely to the challenges he went through. And he was, unfortunately, back in those days, to be someone with a disability and to be someone of short stature, you were not wanted to be seen out in public or in society, because back then, having a disability or a condition was an embarrassment on your family and was a burden. And so, as I mentioned, I can feel that, and I resonated with that. And looking into the role, I did some research about his life, and it resonated with me very strongly. So I was able to, really bring my emotions and bring my life experience into the role. Obviously, my parents and family and all that never locked me up in a room and hid me away, but on an like emotional level, I feel like when I was growing up as a teenager, I did that to myself on an emotional and intellectual level. So being able to bring that into the experience of playing that, the role of him physically being hidden away, I could bring that into the role. So, because I hid away, a lot of my internal feelings and how I felt emotionally, being a little person, being different and, not assimilating with the world in the way that, quote unquote, normal person might. And then also going one step further, being a male, and the status and the perception that society puts on, being a male, and the level of, expectations that are put on, being a male. I couldn't, live up to that, being a small person. And as I've, talked about in other interviews before, I had issues with puberty, and so my development did not progress to the same level and as quickly as my friends did. So that was also another level of emotional, I guess, torment at the time for myself that I had to go through and feel, very different about, why was I not progressing and why was I not like all my friends, and, why, and then going back to, my faith and being like, why did God make me so different? And, why did he design me to have such a difficult life? But, ultimately it's for his glory, and, I'm doing things that, other people don't get the opportunity to do because of, what he's gifted to me. So.
That's really true, isn't it? By playing Tom Thumb, you could see the evolution in just culture, number one, which is fabulous that you weren't shut in a room, but look at how far people have come. But the reality is still there of the challenges, and that you, instead of just sticking with life's dealt me lemons, that old statement of make lemonade, you really truly did that. And even as you're saying this now, your choice to embrace who you are brought you to this incredible movie, your experience on the ship, and so much more where you're at today. So I really want to highlight that and just say, we can look at our situations and we can allow the situations to control us, or we can take those and we can navigate through that terrain and say, what, I'm driving this ship, this is my life, and I'm going to turn this into something else. And I really see that that's what you have done. And we're only at the beginning of this interview. There's so much more to talk about that you've done, that you're doing. But since you are talking about some of the adversity that you have gone through, I'd like to camp here for just a little bit, because there's people out there right now that are hearing this interview, reading this interview, and maybe they're in the same struggle that you went through. Maybe they're in a different struggle, but nevertheless, the struggle is real, right?
Very real.
So what do you say to that person right now, based out of your experience? And you can feel free to share some of those if you want to. But to that person, those people right now that are feeling like giving up, that are feeling like they're succumbing to their challenges, why did this happen to me, God? How can you encourage them right now and inspire them? What can you say to them? You can let them know you understand and give them hope.
Yeah, I mean, to be completely honest, just on a human connection level, is just to say that, life is tough. We're all human beings, and we're going to go through ups and downs and roller coasters. And, in any sort of the imagination, my life is still going through ups and downs and roller coasters. And, as I've shared with you even before we jumped on the interview, that, my week has not been the most smoothest week in the past, week and a half. And so even with all of, the successes that, we can have, life is going to deal you, punches that you just have to roll with. And sometimes, sometimes you just have to sit in those feelings, and you have to sit in those emotions. It's important as human beings to feel everything that we feel, because that's part of the journey. Life is about journey and not always about the destination. The typical saying that it's about the journey and not destination, because if we're ultimately always looking towards where we're going to end up, we end up missing where we're going, and the destinations that we have with the journey along the way. And I think ultimately you have to live in the positive moments that we have and the successes that we have. And we also have to live in the negative times that we have, because that's what the human condition is all about. Life is never going to be perfect, and as we've mentioned, like, I came off a film that was at that point of time was the height of my career. And I thought, it was all sunshine and rainbows, and I was off to Hollywood, and my life was gonna be, sunshine and rainbows, and I'd get everything I had ever dreamed of, and that's not true. I'm still striving. I'm still struggling, just like everyone else, and ultimately I have the same hardships as you. So we're gonna bond together, knowing that at the end of the day we're all human beings. That's what I try to share with everyone, is that we're all human beings, and good or bad, we just have to stick it together and look after each other.
I love when you said, we're going to bond together, because that is, we should be there for one another, right? And help each other. And
100% human is what I always say. Like, I mean,
I love that. Say that again.
100% human, because the common goal and the commonality that we all share is that we're a human being. Like, I mean, race, gender, religion, nationality, Republican, liberal, independent. At the end of the day, none of that, I mean, that's all labels. None of that matters. Where we are all human being. We are the same as a human being, and that will not change. So it kind of complexes me sometimes when we all get caught up in all these crazy issues, and then it hits me. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, you're a human being, I'm a human being, that's all that counts. So, and that's why, at the end of the day, I'm a Christian, I'm a human rights activist, and people try to ask me things about, different charities and causes, and people try to dump me about what I believe, in terms of being a Christian, and also believing in diversity and inclusion, and the LGBTQ movement, because people like to try and trip me up and be like, you're a Christian, but the Bible also talks about not believing in that movement, but ultimately God said to love everyone as he loved us. We're all sinners at the end of the day, and we're all human beings, and he died for us because he loved us. And God says to love everyone, and I have really been trying to explore what love means, and trying to explore and deepen my understanding of agape love, which is God's love, and God's love for our fellow human being. I don't want people to judge me, and I don't want people to look down on me and discriminate on me for who I am and my personality and what I can and can't do. So I don't want to discriminate or look down upon anyone else for whoever they might be and whatever it is that they believe their life is to be as a human being on this planet. Ultimately, God is judge and jury. It's not me. It's not any one of us.
That is so good. That is so good, Sam. And so biblical, because we are called to love. That's what we are called to do. And perfect love casts out fear, which is a huge meaning. It's not just what scares you, it's what is unfamiliar to you. It's what you don't understand. It's what holds you back, right?
Mm.
And so we are supposed to be having the love walk, 1 Corinthians
Mm.
13, right? We're supposed to believe the best in all people. And I loved how you said at the end of the day, God is the judge and jury. And I'm so glad that I'm not.
Yeah.
Right?
If
I
I was judge and jury, I would make so many mistakes. My human mind would not do it justice. And as much as I try to understand God's love, unfortunately, I'm still a human being. We're all still human being, and I do sometimes make snap judgments that I after taking a beat and a pause, I have to check myself and be like, no, why did I have that feeling and why did I have that judgment? That was not the right attitude or the right feeling to have about a situation or about a person or
right,
whatever. And ultimately there are people that have come through our blip of human existence that have been unfortunately the most atrocious people that have ever lived. But again, at the end of the day, we still have to understand that they're a human being, and if we want to say that we love every human being despite what they've done and what they've gone through, then we have to try and put aside the
right.
experiences and things they've done and still try and look on them with God's love, and again, at the end of the day, when they go to see their maker, it will be up to God to judge them according to their actions and what they've done with, their life on earth. So, yeah, it's
So
not
good.
me.
It's so good, Sam. We're here to love, and love does not mean we don't speak the truth in love. There's times when we speak the truth in love, right? But
Mm.
if we have the heart that says, I'm going to let God's love I'm going to be his vessel of love, then, it's very obvious to me, especially in certain communities, like you're talking about being in the Hollywood movie scene, right? Where there is so much, not just diversity, but so many different kinds of people, which is still diversity, different lives, different ages, different backgrounds, different everything. We cannot just throw everybody in a bag, shake it up, and just say, well, we're, and then start judging. We are all at the end of the day human. And I love how you said that, 100% human. And that, well, John 3:16, if we're going to go there, God so loved the world, right?
Mm.
So we are supposed to be examples of that in the earth. And I just think
Mm.
that you put that out there so beautifully. And I wanted to make
And
sure
I just want to say also that, as a Christian, being brought up a Christian, that people ask me, when they try and stump me on things like LGBTQ movement and diversity and racism and things like that, they say the stereotype, unfortunately, in society, being a Christian, is that we, you know, discriminate or we don't love on, the LGBTQ movement. But I believe the way I was brought up as a Christian gives me that capacity to love, my fellow human being and, the communities that, um, we're supposedly stereotypically not, you know,
right.
loving on, that my Christian values and principles allow me to express that because without being brought up Christian and understanding, the values and the morals of Christianity, and that, as a human being, that I am flawed, and understanding that as perfect as I try to be, and I'll never be perfect, that I am a sinner, that, God loves me anyway, then I should love others the way that He loves me, knowing that I am a flawed human being. So, in being a flawed human being, Him loving me, I need to love other people, even though they are flawed, because that's how it is.
Well, we are all imperfectly perfect, right?
Mm.
Every one of us. Thank you for sharing that. I think that there's such value in that, because if we want to be the proverbial light of the world, like, and being as a Christian myself, I know Jesus is the light of the world, but he also has placed us here to be carriers of that light.
Mm.
And in order to be
The Great Commission.
Say that again.
The Great Commission. Go out into the world and spread his message and be a light into the world.
Be a light. Then being a light, there is a passion and a purpose in that. And in order for the love of God to compel anybody, because I don't know about you, but you said that you weren't perfect, you were human. I'm telling you, I'm not perfect, I'm human. And there are things that I've done that I wish I hadn't done. And there are, like, we've all, nobody's perfect, no, not one. And so for me to be judging anybody, I better be pointing the finger back at myself first.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's so good, Sam. And I really appreciate you being transparent about that. That's beautiful.
You can't, and yeah, and like you said, that's the biggest thing that I always try to remind myself every day, is that I can't point the finger at anyone else without pointing the finger at myself, because as nice of a person as everyone says I am, and as lovely and hospitable and all of that, behind closed doors, I know what I've done and I know what I feel guilty about. So I wear that, very responsibly on myself every day, is to not judge or point the finger at anyone else, because then, I have to point the finger at myself, and that's not, I don't necessarily always want to hold a mirror up to myself, unfortunately. So
right. Totally get that. Well, and just kind of wrapping that up,
yeah.
The love of God draws people. And the scripture actually says it compels them. So if that is what is going to compel a person, whether or not you believe what they're doing is right, wrong, or indifferent, whether you think it is holds to the biblical standard of what is right or whatever, push all that aside for a moment. You collect more bees with honey, right? Yeah. So if we are dripping with that honey of agape, we are going to draw people to God. And I always like to say, we catch him, he cleans them. And it's not my job to know what the cleaning is all about. It's his, right? But it's the love that draws people. And that's what I'm hearing you say, is to stay out of those other compartments, unless that's really where you feel that God has called you. And then, okay, right, then be that voice in that arena. But as far as being out in our communities, standing up for your beliefs is imperative, but being a light is what is going to draw people to love and to light and to truth, right? However we navigate that. So I really think that this is important discussion that we are having, because there's been a lot of people in the Christian church that have been hurt by Christians that have been not loving, or folks that maybe came to a church service or an outing, or came to somebody that they really felt was this spiritual guru person in the Christian community, and they were really hurt. They were taken back and did not feel appreciated for the journey that they were on. Whereas if the experience might have been different, they might be in a different place in their life right now. And I know you and I could sit here and talk about this for like forever, about times when there was somebody that was a strong person of faith that really empowered us and believed in us, even when we were in the worst possible place in our life, that they saw something in us, and being around them just made us feel better about ourselves, because really, truly, we feel like crap about ourselves, but being with them made us feel better like we could borrow their belief in us because they actually believed in us. And that was a much better place to be with than the person that was saying, right? And even in child rearing, when you're constantly doing this to that kid, that child is not being undergirded, and they're not even necessarily looking at what needs to change in their life. They're just ticked and ultimately feeling depleted and feeling insecure. Whereas that doesn't mean that there's not a place for discipline or redirection or truth telling, but it's in the delivery, Sam, isn't it? We
discipline and love. Yeah, discipline and love. You can be stern and firm and help them to understand where they are going wrong, but you have to do it out of compassion and love and encouragement so that they feel that you're helping them and not judging them or, shaming them or throwing guilt on them.
Helping them find the next best version of them, right? On their journey.
Yeah.
Because we're all on a journey.
Thank you for joining us for Purpose by Design with Dr. Pamela Henkel. You can learn more about Dr. Pamela and her world at purposewithpamela.com. See you next time on Purpose by Design.